Let's start with lost art. Clearly, productivity and accomplishment, they're related a little bit. If we want to succeed, do better, why is that, in your mind, a lost art?
Well, I mean, it gets to the core of the approach I took in this book, right? So when tackling this topic, we have the central question: how do I produce stuff that I'm really proud of without getting overwhelmed by work or having to take over most of my life? There's a lot of ways you could go to try to answer this question, and I went an unusual way with this book, but really resonated with me. It's what's captured in this lost art. So what did I not do? Well, I would say like right now, one of the common modes for investigating these type of questions would be, let's say, drawing from social psych research, right? So like the book could have been a lot of researchers from the University of Michigan actually looked at this question. And when they broke people into control and experimental groups and had people slow down, they found 20% more increased. And that's fine, but I just, not for me, right? I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. There's another mode you could do to write these books, which is the sort of journalistic, let me take you to like company X and let's look at the way and look what they're doing here. It's different. They have this new way that they deal with their workloads and their employees are less burnt out. And it was really smart. Again, a really interesting way to write sort of business pragmatic nonfiction. But I didn't want to do it for this book because what I kept finding with that approach is the uncanny valley effect. If I describe a job that is pretty similar to yours, but not quite yours, it's very hard to ignore the differences. And then you say, okay, this doesn't apply to me because I know specifically how this job is different than my job. So I have a hard time getting past that. I call it the uncanny valley effect. So I decided to do something really different. I said, I'm going to go back through history and into other fields. And I want to find, I call them traditional knowledge workers, but really famous creatives, people whose work maybe looks nothing like a 21st century creative in terms of the details of their day, but famous creatives who had huge amounts of flexibility to experiment with what works and what doesn't for trying to use your brain to create things that are new and original and valuable. And my idea was, let me isolate from these creatives the principles that they came up with, and then once we've isolated those principles, I can adapt them to the 21st century. Right. So that's why I call it the lost art, because we'll go all the way back and talk to, Newton and Galileo. We'll look more contemporaneously at Mary Oliver or Lin-Manuel Miranda. We'll look at Georgia O'Keeffe, or we'll look at Jane Austen. My approach was, I want to sort of find these timeless principles for producing stuff that matters without burning out. Find the timeless principles and then adapt them to, so what does this mean for me in my job or my pursuits in the 21st century? So that's this lost art approach. It hit me as the right way to tackle this topic. Not studies, not reporting on like particular way teams are being run, but like get to the aspirational core of like, what have we learned through the history of trying to produce things with our brain about what really works, and then figure out how we make sense in an age of Zoom and Slack.